The snow fell in thick, silent clumps against the windshield of my broken-down Honda, each flake a tiny mockery of the Christmas lights that twinkled from every house on this godforsaken street. Everyone else was inside, warm, loved, wanted. I sat in the driver's seat, my breath fogging the glass, my fingers numb despite being wrapped around my phone. The engine had died 20 minutes ago. And with it, any illusion that this day could get worse. I was wrong. My hands trembled as I scrolled through my contacts, searching for Sarah's number through tears that made the screen blur. Sarah, my best friend. The only person who might still answer on Christmas Eve after what had just happened. After Marcus had thrown my suitcase onto the front lawn, after he'd told me to get out, after his mother had stood in the doorway with that satisfied smirk while her son informed me that our marriage was over. "You're not enough, Emma," he'd said, his voice cold as the snow now accumulating on my car. "You've never been enough. My mother was right about you from the beginning." The diamond ring I'd worn for 3 years felt like a noose around my finger. I'd ripped it off somewhere between his house and this random suburban street where my car had finally given up, just like everything else in my life. I found the contact labeled Sarah Emergency and typed with shaking fingers, "Please. I need help. Car broke down. Nowhere to go. I'm so cold." My thumb hovered over the send button. Pride whispered that I should figure this out myself, that I shouldn't burden anyone on Christmas Eve. But desperation was louder, screaming that I was alone in a dead car in a snowstorm with $17 in my checking account and no family within 300 miles. I pressed send. The message showed as delivered. I waited, watching the screen, willing those 3 little dots to appear that would mean Sarah was typing back. Nothing. The cold was seeping through my thin coat, the only one I'd grabbed in my rushed, humiliating exit. My teeth began to chatter. 5 minutes passed. 10. The phone's battery showed 12%. Then it rang. But it wasn't Sarah's name on the screen. It was just a number, one I didn't recognize. Local area code. Maybe she was calling from someone else's phone? I answered. "Sarah? You have the wrong number." The voice that came through was male, deep, with an edge that made something in my stomach tighten. Not threatening, exactly, but authoritative, the kind of voice that expected to be obeyed. "But you said you need help." My heart dropped. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was texting my friend. Where are you?" The question was direct, allowing no room for my apologies. I blinked at the snow-covered street sign barely visible through the storm. Maple Street? Near the corner of... I can't see. I'm sorry. Don't hang up. Something in his tone made my finger freeze over the end call button. "Is your car running?" "No, it died. I should really... What kind of car?" "A Honda." "But listen, this was a mistake. I'm sorry to bother. Color?" "What?" "The color of your car." Each word was measured, patient but firm. In the background, I heard other voices, muffled, and then what sounded like car doors closing. "Silver. But you don't need to..." "Stay on the line. Someone's coming." My blood ran cold for an entirely different reason. "What? No, I can't. I don't know you. I'm not..." "You texted asking for help in a snowstorm on Christmas Eve. Either accept it or freeze." The bluntness should have scared me. Instead, something in the certainty of his words made me feel, for the first time in hours, like someone actually saw me, saw that I was in trouble, saw that I mattered enough to help. "I can't pay you," I whispered, hating how pathetic I sounded. "For a tow or whatever. I didn't ask for payment." A pause. "What's your name?" "Emma." Emma. The way he said it, slow and deliberate, made it sound like he was memorizing it. "I'm sending a car to your location. My driver will bring you somewhere warm. You can decide what happens next when you're not dying of hypothermia." "I don't understand why you're..." "Because you asked. Simple. Final." "The car is black. SUV. License plate ending in 447. Don't get in any other vehicle. Understood?" The specificity of the instruction should have terrified me. This was how horror movies started. Naive woman gets into stranger's car, never seen again. But Marcus's words were still echoing in my head. "You're not enough. You've never been enough." And the snow was falling harder now, the temperature in my car dropping by the minute, my phone down to 8% battery. What did I have left to lose? Okay, I heard myself say. 15 minutes. Keep this line open. And he stayed. He didn't speak much, but I could hear him there, the sound of his breathing, occasional murmured conversations with others in what sounded like Italian or maybe Greek, the hum of an engine. It was strangely comforting, that invisible tether to another human being while I sat alone in the dark. Why are you being kind to me? I asked into the silence, not expecting an answer. Everyone deserves help when they ask for it. A pause. Even on Christmas Eve. Especially on Christmas Eve. Are you religious? A low sound that might have been a laugh. Not particularly, but I understand what it means to be left out in the cold. Before I could process that, headlights swept through my rear window. A massive black Escalade, pristine despite the snow, pulled up behind my pathetic Honda. The license plate read 7447. They're here, I whispered. I know. Marco will help you. The driver's door of the SUV opened, and a mountain of a man stepped out. He had to be 6'5" at least, shoulders broad enough to block out the streetlight. He wore a black suit and long coat, completely inappropriate for the weather, yet somehow perfect on him. An earpiece glinted at his temple. He approached my window and knocked gently. I rolled it down. Miss Emma? His accent was thick, definitely Italian. I'm Marco. Mr. Valentino sent me. Valentino. So that was the name of my mysterious caller. Come. It is very cold. Marco opened my door with surprising gentleness for such a large man. Your things? Just this. I grabbed my purse and the small suitcase from the passenger seat. Everything I owned, apparently. Everything Marcus had deemed worthy of tossing onto his lawn. The man on the phone, Valentino, spoke again. Marco will take you to one of my properties. It's secure and warm. You'll be safe there. One of your properties? My voice went up. What are you? Some kind of real estate mogul? Silence. Then, something like that. We'll talk more when you're warm. Marco knows where to take you. Wait, are you? But the line went dead. Marco was already loading my suitcase into the back of the Escalade, handling it like it weighed nothing. He opened the rear passenger door, and heat poured out. Real heat. Blessed and wonderful. The interior was all black leather and wood grain, with seats that looked like they cost more than my car. I hesitated at the threshold of this luxury vehicle, this choice, this insane leap into the unknown. Miss, Marco said gently, is safe. Mr. Valentino, he doesn't hurt women, only helps. The snow was in my hair now, melting against my scalp. My coat was soaked through. And something in Marco's eyes, a kindness that seemed out of place in that massive frame, made me believe him. I got in. The door closed with a heavy final thunk. Marco slid into the driver's seat, and another man I hadn't noticed was in the front passenger seat, also built like a weapon, also wearing an earpiece. Neither spoke as Marco pulled smoothly into the street. I sat in the back, surrounded by warmth and leather, and the faint scent of expensive cologne, watching my broken Honda disappear in the side mirror. Somewhere in this city, Marcus was probably opening presents with his mother, celebrating my absence like a gift. And I was in a stranger's car, being taken to God knows where, by people who moved with military precision and wore earpieces on Christmas Eve. The smart part of my brain screamed that this was dangerous, stupid, reckless. But the broken part, the part that had been called not enough and thrown away like garbage, whispered that maybe, just maybe, being reckless was exactly what I needed. My phone buzzed. A text from the same unknown number. You're safe now, Emma. Rest. We'll talk when you arrive. I stared at those words until they blurred. 2 hours ago, I'd had a husband and a home. Now I had nothing except the kindness of a stranger whose full name I didn't even know. The Escalade glided through the snow-covered streets, and against every instinct, against all logic, I felt my eyes growing heavy. The heat, the exhaustion, the emotional devastation of the day, it all crashed over me at once. Just before I drifted off, I wondered what kind of man sent armed drivers in the middle of a snowstorm to rescue a woman who'd texted the wrong number, and what, exactly, I'd just gotten myself into. I woke to silk against my cheek. For a moment, disoriented and warm, I thought I was dreaming. The pillowcase was impossibly soft, the kind of luxury I'd only felt once when Marcus and I had splurged on an anniversary night at a 5-star hotel. But that had been 2 years ago, back when he'd still looked at me like I mattered. Then reality crashed back, the fight, the snow, the car, the stranger's voice on the phone. I sat up too quickly, and the room spun. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a city skyline I recognized. Downtown, but from an angle I'd never seen before. High up, very high up. The storm had passed, leaving everything blanketed in white, under a sky just beginning to lighten with dawn. Christmas morning. The bedroom was massive, decorated in shades of cream and gold. The bed I'd been sleeping in could have fit 4 people comfortably. Across the room, my suitcase sat on a bench, and next to it, someone had laid out clothes that definitely weren't mine. Soft-looking loungewear in my size, still with tags attached. My phone was on the nightstand, plugged into a charger, 47% battery, and a handwritten note on heavy cardstock. Emma, you were exhausted. Marco carried you up. There are clothes and toiletries in the bathroom. Take your time. Someone will bring breakfast when you're ready. The penthouse is secure. You're safe here. D. Valentino. D. Valentino. I turned the card over in my hands, studying the heavy black script. Expensive paper. Confident handwriting. The kind of note someone writes when they're accustomed to giving instructions and having them followed. I should have been terrified. I was in a stranger's penthouse, in clothes I didn't remember changing into. Though a quick check confirmed I was still in my own bra and underwear, under an oversized t-shirt that smelled like expensive laundry detergent. Someone had removed my boots and socks, tucked me in like a child. The bathroom was larger than my old bedroom. Marble everywhere, heated floors, a shower that could fit 6 people, and a bathtub positioned in front of another floor-to-ceiling window with a view of the city. On the counter, unopened toothbrush, luxury skincare products, a hairbrush, and even makeup in shades that would actually suit my complexion. Someone had paid attention to details. Someone had cared enough to make sure I had everything I might need. When was the last time anyone had done that? I showered, letting water hot enough to hurt pound against my shoulders, until the bathroom filled with steam, and I could finally breathe without the weight of yesterday crushing my chest. The body wash smelled like vanilla, and something else, bergamot maybe. Expensive. Everything here was expensive. The clothes fit perfectly. Black leggings, a cashmere sweater in deep emerald green. Even slippers, impossibly soft. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized myself. My eyes were still red from crying, my hair damp and wavy, but the clothes made me look like someone who belonged in a place like this. I didn't belong here. I was Emma Chen, recently unemployed elementary school teacher, recently discarded wife, owner of $17 and a broken Honda. I belonged in a studio apartment with IKEA furniture, not a penthouse that probably cost more per month than I made in a year. But I was here, and I was warm. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't trying to make myself smaller to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. A soft knock on the bedroom door made me jump. "Miss Emma?" Marco's accented voice, gentle despite his size. "You are awake? There is breakfast." I opened the door to find him standing there in a different suit, charcoal gray today, looking like he'd already been awake for hours. Behind him, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an efficient demeanor waited with a covered tray. "This is Rosa," Marco said. "She manages Mr. Valentino's household. She brings food." Rosa smiled warmly and said something in rapid Italian. Marco translated. "She says you are too thin. She will fix this." Despite everything, I almost laughed. "Tell her thank you. For the clothes, too. And for all of this." More Italian. Then Rosa patted my cheek with maternal affection, before bustling into the room to set up breakfast on a small table by the window. The smell made my stomach growl. Fresh bread, coffee, eggs, fruit. When had I last eaten? Yesterday's breakfast, before Marcus's mother had arrived and everything had fallen apart. "Mr. Valentino, he will be here soon," Marco said. "He asks if you are comfortable with this, or if you prefer more time." My heart kicked against my ribs. After everything, I was finally going to meet the man who'd sent his people to rescue me, the man whose voice had kept me tethered in the darkness. "I'll meet him," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Marco nodded with approval. Good. He is curious about you. Curious? I repeated. Why would he be curious about me? I'm nobody. Something flickered in Marco's expression. Surprise, maybe, or disapproval. You are not nobody, Miss Emma. Mr. Valentino, he does not help nobody. He helps people who deserve help. Before I could process that, he and Rosa left, closing the door with a soft click. I sat at the table, looking at the spread of food that was probably worth more than my weekly grocery budget used to be. Through the window, the city was waking up. Families were probably opening presents, making pancakes, being normal. And I was waiting to meet a man who casually owned penthouses and sent armed drivers in snowstorms. I was halfway through the best scrambled eggs I'd ever tasted when I heard voices in the other room, low, male, speaking in Italian. Then footsteps, measured and confident, approaching the bedroom. Another knock. But this time, the door opened before I could respond. He stepped into the room, and every coherent thought evaporated from my mind. D. Valentino. Dante, I would learn later, looked nothing like I'd imagined. I'd pictured someone older, maybe balding, with the soft edges of wealth and comfort. Instead, he was young, early 30s at most, with dark hair precisely cut and eyes so dark they were almost black. He wore a black suit that had definitely been tailored to his body. A white shirt open at the collar, no tie. Simple. Devastating. But it wasn't his looks that made my breath catch. It was the way he carried himself. Absolute authority wrapped in perfect control. He moved like violence was always an option, but never a necessity. Like he'd never had to raise his voice to make people obey. And he was looking at me like I was the most interesting thing he'd seen in years. Emma. My name and his voice, in person, was even more affecting than it had been on the phone. You slept well? I stood up too quickly, nearly knocking over my coffee. Yes, thank you, for everything. The room, the clothes, the food. I don't know how to sit. Not a command exactly, but close. Finish your breakfast. He moved to the chair across from me, and I noticed for the first time that Marco had followed him in, stationing himself by the door like a sentinel. Another man in a suit stood in the hallway, partially visible. Always surrounded by security, I realized. Always protected. What kind of businessman needed that level of security on Christmas morning? Dante leaned back in his chair, studying me with an intensity that made me feel exposed, despite being fully clothed. Tell me what happened yesterday. I don't want to burden you with Emma. The way he said my name made it impossible to deflect. Tell me. So I did. I didn't mean to. Didn't plan to. But something about his stillness made the words pour out. I told him about Marcus, about his mother who'd hated me from day one, about the growing distance, the cruel comments, the way I'd become invisible in my own marriage, about coming home yesterday to find his mother there, bags packed, and Marcus's cold declaration that I wasn't enough, that I'd never been enough. Dante's expression didn't change throughout my story, but something in his eyes went very dark when I mentioned being thrown out in the snow. He put his hands on you? The question was quiet, dangerous. No. He just told me to leave, threw my suitcase out. Where is he now? The shift in his tone made my skin prickle. I don't know. His house, probably. Why? Dante was silent for a long moment, then stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. Against the backdrop of the city, he looked like he owned it. Maybe he did. You texted the wrong number, he said. Do you know whose number you actually reached? My mouth went dry. No. He turned back to me, and in the morning light, I could see details I'd missed. A thin scar along his jaw, the expensive watch on his wrist, the way his suit jacket hung perfectly despite the gun I could now see outlined against his side. A gun. My name is Dante Valentino, he said calmly, and I'm not a real estate mogul, Emma. I run this city's operations for my family's organization. Do you understand what I'm saying? The eggs turned to lead in my stomach. Operations, organization. The way Marco and the other guards moved. The penthouse. The casual use of the word family. In a way that meant something different than blood. You're I couldn't say it. Yes. He watched me carefully, gauging my reaction. And you accidentally asked the head of the Valentino family for help on Christmas Eve, which presents an interesting situation. I stood up, my chair scraping back. I should go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. This was a mistake. Sit down. The command in his voice made me freeze. He stepped closer, and I could smell his cologne now. Something dark and woodsy, perfectly subtle, yet impossible to ignore. You're not leaving, he said. And it wasn't a threat. It was a simple statement of fact. Not yet. You can't keep me here. One dark eyebrow rose. Can I? My heart hammered. Why would you want to? He studied me for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. A small, genuine curve of his lips that transformed his face from intimidating to absolutely devastating. Because you intrigue me, Emma Chen. You ask a stranger for help with no idea who he is. You get in his car, come to his home, and when you discover what he really does, your first instinct is still honesty, not manipulation. He moved closer, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. Do you know how rare that is in my world? I'm not rare. I'm just stupid. No. His hand came up, and I thought he might touch my face, but he stopped just short. You're brave. Braver than you know, and you deserve better than a man who throws you away like garbage. The kindness in those words, coming from a man who was clearly dangerous, made my throat tight. What do you want from me? I want you to stay here, for a few days at least, until we figure out what happens next. And if I say no? He stepped back, giving me space. Then Marco drives you wherever you want to go. You walk away and we never speak again. His eyes locked with mine. But something tells me you have nowhere to go, no one to run to, and I'm offering you safety, Emma, time to breathe, to decide what you want your life to look like without someone telling you you're not enough. He was right. I hated that he was right. Why do you care? I whispered. For a moment, something vulnerable flickered across his face. Because someone once helped me when I had nothing, and because... He stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. Let's just say I have my reasons. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, I heard myself say, okay. A few days. Dante's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. Good. Rosa will make sure you have everything you need. Rest, recover. We'll talk more later. He turned to leave, Marco already opening the door. Dante? He paused, looking back. What happens after a few days? His expression was unreadable again. All business. That depends on you, Emma, and what you're willing to risk. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with the breakfast, the view, and the terrifying realization that I'd just agreed to stay in the home of a mafia boss. A mafia boss who looked at me like I mattered, like I was enough. The next 3 days passed in a surreal haze of luxury and carefully maintained distance. Dante was gone most of the time. Business, Marco said vaguely when I asked. But even in his absence, I felt him everywhere. In the books on the shelves chosen with obvious care, ranging from classic literature to modern thrillers. In the playlist that came through the penthouse speakers, an eclectic mix that somehow matched my taste perfectly. In the way Rosa appeared with my favorite foods, before I realized I was hungry, as if someone had been paying very close attention to what I ate and didn't eat. On the second day, I found a new laptop on the desk in the study, already set up with my name. A note in Dante's handwriting, in case you want to look for jobs or anything else. I should have been disturbed by how much he'd learned about me in such a short time. Instead, I found myself spending hours researching him. Dante Valentino, 32. Took over the family operations at 25 when his father was killed in what the news articles delicately called a business dispute. Since then, he'd consolidated power, eliminated rivals, and turned the Valentino organization into something more sophisticated. Less street violence, more legitimate business ventures with carefully hidden illegal foundations. He was feared, respected, untouchable. And he'd saved me from freezing to death in my car because I'd sent a wrong number text. On the third night, I was curled up on the massive couch in the living room, wearing another set of expensive loungewear that had appeared in my closet. When I heard the penthouse door open, my heart jumped before I could stop it. Dante walked in, and I was struck again by how he commanded space without effort. He looked tired. There were shadows under his eyes I hadn't noticed before, but he smiled when he saw me. "You're still awake." I couldn't sleep. I set down the book I'd been pretending to read. "How was business?" "Tedious." He shrugged off his suit jacket, draping it over a chair, and loosened his tie. The casual domesticity of the gesture made something flutter in my chest. But resolved. "Have you eaten?" Rosa made sure I had enough food to feed an army. "She worries." He moved to the bar cart, poured 2 glasses of wine without asking if I wanted one. When he handed me a glass, his fingers brushed mine, and I felt the contact like electricity. "She thinks you're too sad. I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar, Emma." He sat on the other end of the couch, close but not touching, and studied me over the rim of his glass. "You've cried every night since you've been here. The walls aren't as thick as you think." Heat flooded my face. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." "Don't apologize." His voice was gentle. "You're allowed to grieve, even for something that didn't deserve you." I took a long sip of wine to avoid responding. It was excellent, of course. "Everything here was excellent. I've been thinking," Dante said after a moment, "about your situation." "What about it?" "Your ex-husband, Marcus Chen." The way he said the name, flat and cold, made me look up sharply. He's an investment banker at Merrill Lynch. Lives in a house his mother bought him. Drives a Porsche he can't actually afford. And he's been having an affair with his colleague Jennifer Matthews for the past 8 months. The wine glass nearly slipped from my hands. "How do you—" "I make it my business to know things, Emma. Especially about people who hurt those under my protection." He watched me carefully. "Did you know about the affair?" "I suspected, but I didn't want to believe it." The admission hurt, even now. "How long have you known?" "Since the morning after you arrived. I had someone look into him." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "The house is in his mother's name. The car is leased. His salary barely covers his lifestyle. He's drowning in debt from trying to maintain appearances. Why are you telling me this? Because you blamed yourself." His eyes locked with mine. I could see it in the way you talked about him. Like somehow his cruelty was your failure. "But Emma, he's a weak man playing at being successful. And when that facade started cracking, he needed someone to blame." "You were convenient." The words should have felt like vindication. Instead, they just made me feel hollow. "It doesn't matter now. He's gone. I'm here. And in a few days, I'll need to figure out what comes next." "What if you didn't have to leave?" I blinked at him. "What?" Dante set down his wine glass and turned to face me fully. "Stay. Not as a guest. As something more permanent." My heart was suddenly beating too fast. "I don't understand. I have a proposition for you." He spoke carefully, like he'd rehearsed this. "My life requires certain appearances, social events, business dinners, situations where having a partner is advantageous. You need security, stability, time to rebuild your life. We could help each other. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" The words came out sharper than I intended. "I want you to be safe, protected. And yes, occasionally appear at my side when necessary." He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and took my hand. His thumb brushed across my knuckles, and I shivered. "In exchange, you live here. Anything you need, it's yours. No one touches you. No one hurts you. Ever again." It sounded like a fairy tale, a dark, dangerous fairy tale. "Why would you do this?" "Because I can. Because I want to." His grip tightened slightly. "Because from the moment I heard your voice on that phone, asking for help in the snow, something in me recognized something in you. And I don't ignore those instincts, Emma. They've kept me alive this long. This is insane." "Yes. I barely know you. You'll learn." He smiled, that devastating smile that made him look younger, less dangerous. "And I'll learn you. Isn't that what people do? Normal people. Not—" I gestured vaguely at the penthouse. At him. At the impossible situation. "Not this." "You're right. Normal people let women freeze in snowstorms because it's not their problem. Normal people don't care about strangers. He stood, pulling me up with him, and suddenly we were very close. I'm not normal, Emma. I'm never going to be normal, but I keep my promises. And I'm promising you that if you stay, you'll never feel worthless again. I should have said no. Should have run. Should have recognized this for what it was. A powerful man collecting another possession, dressing up ownership in pretty words. But when he looked at me like that, like I was something precious he was afraid might disappear, I didn't see a mafia boss. I saw someone who understood loneliness, who knew what it meant to be surrounded by people and still feel utterly alone. I need time to think, I whispered. Take all the time you need, but he didn't let go of my hand. Just think here, where I know you're safe. The possessiveness in those words should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel seen, wanted, protected in a way I'd never experienced. Okay, I heard myself say. I'll think about it. His smile was triumphant, and he lifted my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that sent heat racing up my arm. Good. Now have you had dinner? Real dinner, not whatever Rosa forced on you earlier. Despite everything, I laughed. I'm not hungry. Liar. He kept hold of my hand as he led me toward the kitchen. You pick at your food like a bird. We're fixing that. What followed was the most surreal hour of my life. Dante Valentino, head of a crime family, made me pasta carbonara in his gourmet kitchen while telling me stories about Rosa's attempts to teach him to cook when he was younger. He was funny, self-deprecating about his culinary failures, and intensely focused on making sure I ate every bite. You're staring, he said, without looking up from the pan. I'm trying to reconcile the man who makes pasta with the man who... I stopped. Who kills people? He said it so casually, like discussing the weather. I won't lie to you, Emma. I've done terrible things. I'll probably do more terrible things. But never to you. Never to anyone under my protection. How can you separate it like that? He plated the pasta with surprising skill, then brought both dishes to the small table in the kitchen nook. Because in my world, there are lines, rules, and the most important rule is this: you protect what's yours, no matter the cost. And I'm yours now? The question came out more breathless than I intended. His eyes met mine, dark and intense. You will be, if you let me. We ate in charged silence, the tension between us thick enough to taste. Every time our hands brushed, reaching for wine or bread, I felt it like a shock. Every time he looked at me, I forgot how to breathe. This was dangerous. He was dangerous. Not because he might hurt me, some instinct deep in my bones said he wouldn't, but because I was starting to want this. Want him, want the safety and the attention, and the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the world who mattered. After dinner, he walked me back to my room, his hand resting possessively on the small of my back. Dante? I turned to face him at the door. Yes? Why me? Really, you could have anyone. He studied my face for a long moment, then reached up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture was achingly gentle. Because everyone else wants something from me. Power, money, protection. You just wanted help. You didn't know who I was and you still said thank you. His hand lingered against my cheek. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? I leaned into his touch before I could stop myself. I'm not special. Let me be the judge of that. He stepped closer, and I could feel the heat of him, smell his cologne, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Sleep well, Emma, and think about my offer. Think about staying. Then he was gone, leaving me trembling in the doorway. I dreamed that night of dark eyes and gentle hands, of safety wrapped in danger, of a man who looked at me like I hung the moon and would burn down the world to keep me safe. When I woke the next morning, there was another note on my nightstand. Had to leave early. Business in Philadelphia. Back tonight. Don't leave. Please. The please undid me. A man who commanded armies saying please to me. Like my choice mattered. Like I mattered. I spent the day exploring the penthouse more thoroughly, finding pieces of Dante in every room. Photos of him as a child with a beautiful woman who had to be his mother. Both of them laughing. before whatever darkness had taken her. Books with passages underlined in his precise handwriting, a guitar in the study, well worn and obviously played. In his bedroom, which I definitely shouldn't have been in, I found more. The bed was massive, covered in dark gray linens. His closet was full of expensive suits, all perfectly organized. But on his dresser was a photo I recognized. My driver's license picture, printed out. He'd been looking at my face, studying me. The possessiveness of it should have scared me. Instead, I picked up the photo, tracing my own features, wondering what he saw when he looked at it. "Miss Emma?" I jumped, spinning to find Marco in the doorway. He didn't look surprised to find me in Dante's room, which was somehow worse. "I'm sorry. I was just... is okay." He smiled slightly. "Mr. Valentino, he would not mind. He wants you comfortable everywhere. Marco, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Why is he doing this? Really?" Marco was quiet for a moment, then stepped into the room. "You know his mother died when he was young." I nodded. "She was killed. In crossfire, they say, but we know better. She was targeted to hurt his father." Marco's expression was somber. "Dante, he was 12. He found her, and he made a promise that day. Any woman under his protection. No one touches. No one hurts. This is sacred to him." My throat tightened. "I'm not under his protection. You are. The moment you asked him for help, you became his responsibility. And when Dante Valentino takes responsibility..." Marco shook his head. "He does not let go, ever." The words should have sounded like a warning. They sounded like a promise. That night, I heard the penthouse door open close to midnight. I was still awake, had been for hours, thinking about everything Marco had said. About Dante's offer. About the fact that I hadn't felt this alive. This scene, in years. Footsteps approached my door. A soft knock. "Emma? You awake?" I opened the door to find Dante still in his suit, looking exhausted but relieved to see me. "I wasn't sure you'd still be here," he admitted. "Where else would I go?" His smile was brilliant. "Come with me. I want to show you something." I had no idea the penthouse had rooftop access, but of course it did. Everything about Dante's world was full of hidden spaces, secret luxuries, things that existed beyond the reach of ordinary people like me. The cold hit immediately. December in the city was unforgiving, but Dante was already draping his suit jacket over my shoulders before I could shiver. It smelled like him, warm and expensive and safe. "Look," he said, guiding me to the edge where a glass barrier protected us from the drop. The city sprawled below us, a carpet of light stretching to the horizon. From up here you couldn't see the grime or the struggle, just beauty, just possibility. "When I was 17, Dante said quietly, "I stood on a rooftop like this and decided who I was going to be. My father wanted me to take over the family business, but I wanted out. I wanted normal." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I was naive. Thought I could just walk away, go to college, become someone else." What happened? Reality. My father was killed 3 days before my 18th birthday, and suddenly, normal wasn't an option anymore. It was let or watch everything he'd built burn. He turned to look at me, his face half in shadow, so I led. And I was good at it. Too good. And now here I am, 20 years later, standing on another rooftop, realizing I haven't made a single choice for myself in all that time. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the first choice I've made that's just mine. Not for the family, not for business, not for strategy. He moved closer, his hands coming to rest on the barrier on either side of me, caging me in without touching me. Just because I want you here. My breath caught. "Dante, I know this is fast. I know it's insane. But Emma, I haven't felt anything real in so long, and then you called me in a snowstorm and asked for help like you believed someone might actually care." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "And I realized I do care. More than I should. More than is smart. You barely know me. I know you're kind, even when the world hasn't been kind to you. I know you say thank you to people others don't even see. I know you read mystery novels and drink your coffee with too much cream, and you cry quietly because you don't want to burden anyone with your pain. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. I know enough. This is crazy. Yes. You're dangerous. Yes. I should run. But you won't. It wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. And worse, he was right. I wouldn't run. Couldn't run. Because standing there with his jacket around my shoulders and his hands framing my face and the city spread out below us like a promise, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt alive. What do you want from me? I whispered. Everything. His forehead touched mine, and I could feel his breath against my lips. Your mornings, your laughter, your tears, your trust. I want you to stay, Emma. Not as a guest, not as some arrangement. I want you to stay because you want to be here. With me. I'm not brave enough for this. You're the bravest person I know. You survived being told you weren't enough and you're still standing. Still fighting. His lips brushed my temple, achingly gentle. Let me fight for you now. Let me show you what it's like when someone chooses you every single day. I should have said no. Should have recognized this for the beautiful trap it was. A powerful man who was used to getting what he wanted, wrapping his desire in poetry and promises. But when I looked up into his eyes, I didn't see manipulation. I saw the same desperate loneliness I felt. The same hunger for something real in a world full of pretense. Okay, I breathed. I'll stay. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Yeah? Yeah. But Dante, I need you to understand something. I put my hand on his chest, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady under my palm. I'm not good at this. I don't know how to be with someone like you. I'll probably mess up, say the wrong thing, not fit into your world. My world can adjust. He covered my hand with his. And you don't have to be good at anything except being yourself. That's all I want. What about the appearances, the business dinners and social events? We'll figure it out together. Marco can teach you what you need to know. Rosa will help with clothes and etiquette, but Emma... He tilted my face up to his. None of that matters as much as this. As you saying yes, then he kissed me. It was gentle at first, testing, giving me room to pull away. But when I didn't, when I rose on my toes and pressed closer, he made a sound low in his throat and deepened the kiss. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head, and I forgot about the cold, forgot about everything except the heat of him and the way he kissed me like I was oxygen and he was drowning. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine again. Stay with me tonight, he said. Not, I just want to hold you. Want to wake up knowing you're still here. It was too fast, too intense, too everything. I nodded anyway. His bedroom was as impressive as the rest of the penthouse, but I barely noticed the details. I was too focused on the way he watched me as I sat on his bed, the way he removed his tie and cufflinks with practiced efficiency, the way he moved like a predator even in this intimate space. I should change, I said nervously. There are things in the closet. Help yourself. He disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard water running. The closet held more of the expensive loungewear that kept appearing, but also, my breath caught, lingerie. Beautiful, delicate things in my size, still with tags. Had he bought these hoping I'd stay? Or was this just how his world worked? Everything prepared, everything perfect. I changed into a silk pajama set, dark green to match my eyes, and was perched on the edge of the bed when he emerged from the bathroom wearing only sleep pants, his chest bare. I'd known abstractly that he was built, but seeing him like this, the lean muscle, the few scattered scars that told stories I didn't know yet, the way he moved with unconscious grace, made my mouth go dry. Come here, he said softly, pulling back the covers. I slid in beside him, and he immediately pulled me close, my back to his chest, his arms secure around my waist. The intimacy of it made my eyes burn. When was the last time someone had just held me? When was the last time I'd felt safe enough to let my guard down, tell me something? He murmured against my hair, something you've never told anyone. Why? Because I want to know you, the real you, not the version you show the world. I was quiet for a long moment, then heard myself whisper, I wanted to be a writer, when I was young, before teaching, before Marcus. I used to write stories, create whole worlds, but Marcus said it was childish, a waste of time. So I stopped. Dante's arm tightened around me. You'll write again, whatever you want. I'll make sure you have the time, the space, everything you need. You can't just fix everything with money and power. Watch me. He pressed a kiss to my shoulder. What else? What makes you happy? I don't know anymore. Then we'll figure it out together. Another kiss. This one to the nape of my neck, and I shivered. I'm going to learn everything about you, Emma. Every fear, every dream, every secret. And I'm going to make sure you never doubt your worth again. That's a big promise. I don't make promises I can't keep. I turned in his arms to face him, and in the dim light from the city filtering through the windows, his face was softer, younger. What about you? What do you want? You. This. Something that's mine. Not because I took it, but because it was freely given. His hand traced down my arm, leaving goosebumps in its wake. I've spent my whole life taking Emma, building an empire on fear and power, but you're the first thing I've wanted that I can't just claim. You have to choose me, every day. And that terrifies me. The vulnerability in his voice undid me. I'm here, aren't I? For now. But what happens when you see the rest of it? The ugly parts I can't hide forever. His jaw tensed. What happens when you realize what I really am? What are you? Dangerous. Ruthless. I've killed people, Emma. Not many. Not recently, but enough. I've made choices that keep me awake at night. I'm not a good man. Maybe not. But you saved me when you didn't have to. You've been nothing but kind to me. Gentle. I touched his face, tracing that scar along his jaw. Maybe good and bad isn't as simple as we think. He caught my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. You're going to undo me. Is that bad? I don't know yet. But he was smiling, and he pulled me closer, tucking my head under his chin. Sleep, Emma. We have time to figure this out. I drifted off, wrapped in his arms, feeling safer than I had in years, not knowing that safety was about to shatter. I woke to chaos, shouting, breaking glass. Dante's body suddenly gone from beside me, replaced by cold sheets. My eyes snapped open to find the bedroom door open, light flooding in from the hallway, and voices raised in rapid Italian. Then Dante appeared in the doorway, and the sight of him made my blood run cold. He'd pulled on jeans and a t-shirt, but what terrified me was the gun in his hand and the expression on his face, cold, lethal. Nothing like the gentle man who'd held me last night. Stay here, he commanded. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Marco. What's happening? Someone tried to breach the building. They're contained, but... He stopped, his expression shifting to something I couldn't read. Emma, I need you to trust me right now. Whatever you hear, whatever happens, stay in this room. Understood? I nodded, mute with fear. He crossed to me in 2 strides, cupped my face, kissed me hard. I will keep you safe, I promise. Then he was gone, the door closing with a heavy click. I locked it with shaking hands. The sounds from beyond the door were muffled but terrifying. More shouting. A single gunshot that made me flinch and cover my mouth to keep from screaming. Then silence, heavy and wrong. Minutes crawled by like hours. Finally, a knock. Emma, it's Marco. You can open the door. I recognized his voice and fumbled with the lock. Marco stood there with another guard, both looking grim but unharmed. Behind them, I could see people moving in the living room, cleaning something off the floor. Was that blood? Where's Dante? He's handling the situation. He wants you to stay here, but Marco hesitated. There's something you should know. The men who tried to break in, they were asking for you by name. My stomach dropped. What? We're still finding out, but Mr. Valentino is questioning one of them now. Marco's expression was apologetic. It's not something you should see, but I was already moving past him, down the hallway, following the sound of voices to a door I'd never noticed before. It was slightly ajar, and through it, I could hear Dante speaking in a tone I'd never heard from him, flat, emotionless, terrifying in its calm. "I'll ask one more time. Who sent you?" I pushed the door open. The room was some kind of office, but the furniture had been shoved aside. In the center, a man knelt on the floor, his face bloody, his hands zip-tied behind his back. Dante stood over him, gun held loosely at his side, looking at the man like he was nothing, like he was already dead. Then he saw me, and his expression transformed. First shock, then fury, then something that looked almost like shame. "Emma, get out of here." He said they were asking for me. My voice was surprisingly steady. "Why?" The man on the floor laughed, a wet, pained sound. "You really don't know, do you, sweetheart? Your husband, ex-husband, he owes a lot of people a lot of money. Gambling debts, bad investments, and when he couldn't pay, he offered something else as collateral." The room tilted. "What?" "You." The man spit blood onto the floor. Said his pretty little wife would be worth something to the right buyer. We were just coming to collect. The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Marcus had sold me. Actually sold me like property to pay his debts. Dante moved so fast I barely saw it. His fist connected with the man's face, and the crack echoed through the room. "You came into my home, tried to take what's mine. You understand what that means, Dante?" My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "Did you know? About Marcus?" He turned to me, and I saw the truth in his eyes before he spoke. "I found out 3 hours ago. I was handling it. Handling it how? However necessary. No apology, no softening. This was the real Dante Valentino, the one who ran a criminal empire, the one who made people disappear, and I should have been horrified, should have run, should have seen this for what it was, a world of violence I didn't belong in. Instead, I looked at the man on the floor who'd come to abduct me, who worked for people who thought they could buy and sell human beings, and I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What are you going to do with him?" I asked. Dante studied me carefully. "That depends on you. On me. You wanted to know what I really am. This is it, Emma. This is the choice. You can walk away right now. I'll make sure you're protected, set up somewhere safe, give you enough money to start over. Or you can stay, knowing this is part of my world, knowing I'll always choose your safety over mercy." The man on the floor had gone quiet, watching this exchange with dawning understanding. I thought about Marcus, throwing me out in the snow, selling me to pay his debts. I thought about 3 years of being told I wasn't enough, of shrinking myself to fit his vision. I thought about waking up in Dante's arms, feeling safe for the first time in forever. "I'm staying," I said. Dante's eyes flashed with something dark and possessive. "You're sure?" "I'm sure." He nodded once, then turned to Marco. "Take her back to the bedroom. I'll be there soon." "No." I stepped forward. "I said I'm staying. That means all of it. I'm not some fragile thing you need to protect from reality." For a long moment, Dante just looked at me. Then, incredibly, he smiled. Proud and fierce and utterly devastating. "Okay, then stand over there and don't interfere." What followed was brutal and efficient. Dante extracted information about Marcus's debts, about who else might come looking, about every detail of the operation. He didn't torture exactly, just made it very clear what would happen if the man didn't cooperate, and he cooperated. When it was done, Dante made a phone call in Italian, and 2 men I'd never seen before arrived to take the prisoner away. I didn't ask where they were taking him. I didn't want to know. Finally, we were alone in the office. Dante stood there, breathing slightly heavier than normal, a spot of blood on his shirt, looking at me like he expected me to bolt. "Say something," he said quietly. "You need to change your shirt. There's blood on it." He barked out a surprised laugh. "That's what you're focused on? What do you want me to say? That I'm scared? I am. That this is insane? It is." I moved toward him, and he went very still. "But I'm also tired of being the victim in my own story, and you're offering me a chance to be something else. Someone stronger. This isn't strength, Emma. It's darkness. Maybe I need a little darkness. I stopped in front of him, close enough to touch. Maybe I'm tired of being the good girl who gets thrown away. His hands came up to frame my face, thumbs brushing my cheekbones. You're not thrown away. Not anymore. You're mine. And anyone who tries to take what's mine. His eyes went cold and hard. They learned very quickly why that's a mistake. The possessiveness should have terrified me. Instead, it made me feel powerful, wanted, chosen. What happens now? I asked. Now, I make sure Marcus Chen understands what he's lost and what it costs to put you in danger. His smile was sharp, dangerous. And you, Emma, you decide just how deep into this world you want to go. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. All the way, I said. I'm all in. Dante's kiss was hard, claiming, full of dark promise. And when he pulled back, his eyes were blazing. Then welcome to my world, amore mio. Let's show them what happens when someone underestimates you. The next morning, I woke alone again. But this time there was a dress laid out on the chair. Black, elegant, expensive. And a note. We have a meeting today. Dress accordingly. Marco will brief you. You're about to see exactly what you've agreed to. Drosa appeared with breakfast and an expression that was equal parts approval and concern. She chattered in Italian while helping me with my hair and makeup, transforming me into someone I barely recognized. The woman in the mirror looked sophisticated, dangerous even, in the way she held herself. Marco knocked precisely at 10. Miss Emma, are you ready? Ready for what? Mr. Valentino is addressing the family council today. He wants you there. My stomach dropped. The entire council? Marco, I don't know anything about. You know enough. His expression was kind. You know who you are to him. That's all that matters. The meeting was held in a restaurant Dante apparently owned, closed to the public, with guards at every entrance. The back room was set up like a boardroom, with a long table surrounded by men in expensive suits. They all stood when Dante entered, and I realized with a start that I was walking beside him, his hand possessive on the small of my back. Every eye in the room tracked to me. Gentlemen, Dante said, his voice carrying effortless authority. This is Emma Chen. She's under my personal protection, which means she's under the family's protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me directly. Are we clear? A murmur of assent rippled through the room. An older man at the far end, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, spoke up. With respect, Dante, bringing an outsider to a council meeting. Emma isn't an outsider. She's family. Dante's tone brooked no argument, and this meeting concerns her directly. He guided me to a chair, then remained standing. What followed was the most surreal hour of my life. Dante laid out the situation with Marcus's debts, the attempted abduction, the network of people who'd been involved. Names I didn't recognize. Amounts of money that made my head spin. Marcus Chen gambled away $300,000, Dante said. Money he didn't have, and when his creditors came calling, he offered his wife as payment. This insult, this violation, happened on our territory, which makes it our business. What do you propose? The silver-haired man asked. Total financial destruction. Dante's smile was cold. His accounts frozen, his credit destroyed, his job terminated. I've already spoken to his superiors at Merrill Lynch. By the end of the week, Marcus Chen will have nothing. Not his house, not his car, not his reputation. He'll understand what it means to lose everything. And the creditors who accepted his offer, another man asked, already being handled. They'll wish they'd never heard Emma's name. The casual efficiency of it made my skin prickle. This was Dante's world, where fortunes were made and destroyed with a phone call, where lives were ruined as casually as ordering coffee, and he was doing it all for me. After the meeting, as the others filed out, the silver-haired man approached us. Up close, I could see the family resemblance. He had Dante's eyes. Uncle Carlo, Dante said. This is Emma. Emma, my Uncle Carlo. He manages our legitimate operations. Carlo studied me with shrewd eyes. You've made quite an impression on my nephew. He's never brought anyone to a council meeting before. I didn't ask him to destroy someone's life for me, I said quietly. No. But you didn't ask him not to either. Carlo smiled slightly. That shows wisdom. In this family, we protect our own. Always, you'll learn that. After he left, I turned to Dante. Your uncle doesn't trust me. He doesn't trust anyone. It's kept him alive this long. Dante pulled me close, right there in the empty meeting room. But he will trust you. They all will. Because you're mine. And that makes you untouchable. What if I don't want to be untouchable? What if I want to be useful? His eyebrows rose. Useful how? You said this was a partnership. That means I contribute something, right? I'm not just some trophy you parade around. I took a breath. I was a teacher. I'm good with people, good at reading them, good at making connections. Use that. Dante looked at me for a long moment, then smiled, genuine and warm. You never stop surprising me. All right. We have a charity gala next week. Legitimate donors, politicians, people who need to believe we're respectable. You'll come with me. Help me navigate the social waters. I can do that. I know you can. He kissed my forehead. But first, we deal with your ex-husband. 3 days later, I stood in front of Marcus's house. His mother's house, I corrected myself, with Dante beside me and Marco waiting in the car. The for sale sign on the lawn was new. So were the legal notices taped to the door. You don't have to do this, Dante said quietly. I can handle this without you. I need to see him. Need him to see me. I straightened my shoulders. I need him to know I'm not the woman he threw away anymore. Dante nodded and rang the doorbell. Marcus answered, and the shock on his face when he saw me was worth everything. He looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled, with dark circles under his eyes. Behind him, I could hear his mother's shrill voice demanding to know who was at the door. Emma? His voice cracked. What are you... You can't be here. I have a restraining order. No, you don't. Dante's voice was cold. You tried to file one. It was denied. Just like your appeal on the house foreclosure. And your lawsuit against your former employer. Marcus's face went white. Who the hell are you? Dante Valentino. He let the name hang in the air, watched recognition and terror dawn in Marcus's eyes. And I'm the reason your life is falling apart. You can't. This is illegal. I'll go to the police. You'll do nothing. Dante stepped forward, and Marcus actually flinched. You sold your wife to pay gambling debts. You put her in danger. Do you understand what that means in my world? I didn't. I never meant for anyone to actually. You meant every word. You valued her at the price of your debt, and not a penny more. Dante's voice could have cut glass. So I decided to show you what real value looks like. Emma is worth more than you'll earn in your entire pathetic life. More than your mother's house, your car, your reputation. She's priceless. And you threw her away. I stepped forward, and Marcus's eyes locked on me. Emma, please. Tell him this is crazy. We can work this out. I made a mistake. You told me I wasn't enough, I said quietly. For 3 years, you made me feel small and worthless and invisible. You let your mother treat me like garbage, and then you literally sold me to criminals. I shook my head. There's nothing to work out, Marcus. You made your choice. I'm sorry. I'll make it right, I swear. You can't make this right, but you can learn from it. I looked at the house, at the life I'd once desperately wanted to be part of. It looked small now, shabby. Goodbye, Marcus. I turned and walked back to the car, Dante's hand finding mine. Behind us, I heard Marcus start to shout, then his mother's voice joining in, but it all faded to background noise. In the car, Marco was smiling. You did good, Miss Emma. I searched for the word. Free. Dante pulled me close. You are free. Free to be whoever you want to be. The charity gala was everything I expected and nothing I feared. I wore a gown Dante had bought me, deep emerald silk that made my skin glow. And I worked the room like I'd been born to it. I made senators laugh, charmed donors, and remembered everyone's names. And through it all, Dante watched me with pride and possessiveness that made my skin heat. You're a natural, he murmured during a slow dance. They love you. They love the idea of taming the dangerous Valentino with a sweet schoolteacher. I smiled up at him. Let them think that. We know better. His hand tightened on my waist. Do we? I'm not taming you, Dante. I'm choosing you. Every dangerous, complicated, beautiful part of you. I leaned closer. And you're choosing me, the woman who's learning she's stronger than she ever knew. Ti amo. He whispered against my hair. I love you, Emma. I didn't plan this. Didn't expect this. But you've become essential to me, my heart stuttered. I love you too. Even though this is insane and too fast and probably a terrible idea. The best terrible idea I've ever had. He kissed me there on the dance floor, in front of senators and socialites and everyone who needed to see that Emma Chen belonged to Dante Valentino and he belonged to her. 6 months later, I stood in the same penthouse, but it felt different now. It was ours, filled with my books alongside his, my terrible attempts at cooking in the kitchen, photos of us scattered throughout. I'd started writing again, and my laptop sat open on the desk with the beginning of a novel that Dante read every night, offering feedback that was surprisingly insightful. I'd also started working with Carlo, helping manage the charitable foundations that laundered, legitimized, Carlo insisted, the family's money. I was good at it. Good at reading people, at making connections, at seeing opportunities others missed. Rosa had become like a mother to me. Marco was my constant shadow and unexpected friend. The family had accepted me not because I was Dante's woman, but because I'd proven I could hold my own in their world. And Dante loved me with an intensity that still took my breath away. Protective to the point of obsession, possessive in ways that should have bothered me but instead made me feel cherished. He knew every inch of my body, every corner of my heart, every dream I'd ever had. Thinking hard? His voice came from the doorway. I turned to find him watching me, still in his suit from whatever meeting he'd been in. Thinking about Christmas Eve, a year ago. When you texted the wrong number, he crossed to me, pulling me into his arms. Best wrong number in history. I was so scared, so lost. And now? I looked up at him. This dangerous, complicated man who'd saved me and claimed me and loved me. Now I'm home. His kiss was deep and thorough, full of promise. When he pulled back, there was something in his eyes I'd learned to recognize, mischief mixed with intensity. I have something for you. He pulled a small box from his pocket. My breath caught. Dante, it's not what you think. Well, not exactly. He opened it to reveal a key. This is the key to a bookstore downtown. Small place, lots of potential. I bought it. For you. What? Why would you? Because you mentioned once that you'd always wanted to own a bookstore, somewhere quiet and full of stories, somewhere that was just yours. He pressed the key into my hand. It's yours now. Do whatever you want with it. Run it, renovate it, burn it down and start over. Your choice. Tears blurred my vision. You remembered that? I remember everything you tell me. His thumb brushed away my tears. You've given me so much, Emma. You've made my life mean something beyond power and territory. Let me give you dreams back. I kissed him with everything I had, pouring a year's worth of love and gratitude and joy into it. When we finally broke apart, I was laughing and crying at once. There's one more thing, he said. Open the box fully. Beneath the key, nestled in velvet, was a ring. Not flashy or ostentatious, but perfect. An emerald surrounded by diamonds, elegant and timeless. I know we've done everything backward, Dante said. Lived together before dating, said I love you before I knew your middle name. But I want to do this right. Emma Chen, will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my home? The word yes was on my lips before he finished asking. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, perfect fit, of course, and kissed me until the city lights blurred outside the windows and nothing existed except us. Later, wrapped in his arms in our bed, I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago. Broken down in a snowstorm, texting a stranger for help, believing she wasn't enough. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, braver, loved beyond measure. What are you thinking? Dante murmured sleepily. That wrong numbers sometimes lead to exactly where you're supposed to be. His arms tightened around me. Always, amore mio, always. And as I drifted off to sleep, safe and warm and chosen, I knew that some mistakes were actually the best decisions you never meant to make. Christmas morning would come tomorrow, but I already had everything I needed. I had love. I had purpose. I had a man who looked at me like I hung the moon and would burn down the world to keep me safe. And most importantly, I had myself back. Stronger, fiercer, and finally enough. Just as I was. Just as I'd always been.